I want to pause. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar with RBC again. My name is Sonia Siddiqui, and joining me today is a wonderful panel of people. I'll let them introduce their names to you. So Vivian, let's start with you.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Vivian Lee. I'm from the RBC Inclusive Recruitment Team, and I have my lovely panelists here today with me. I'll start with Divya.
Hello everyone. I'm Divya. I'm working as client due diligence at RBC.
Thank you. And then we've got Daffy.
Hi everyone. My name is Daffy. I work for the Enterprise Decision Support Team in RBC. It's a team within the finance group that supports the various segments of the bank to develop their business cases.
Thank you. And then we've got Addie Funky.
Hi everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Funke Bishi. I work in the US data office as a data controls analyst.
Awesome. So I will give them a chance to go into more detail about their roles and their whole story. Vivian will be hosting the rest of the webinar. But before we get started, I just want to make sure that everyone is properly connected. So I hope you all know that you are all in listen only mode. So if you're trying to verbally talk to us, we will not be able to hear you or see you. But we will take your questions after the presentation. So we will have a Q&A session. So if you look at the top of your screen or at the bottom of your screen, there will be a Q&A tab. You can type in your questions in there. We will not be taking questions in the chat. We will only take questions in the Q&A tab. And for best results, please use a laptop or a desktop computer. If you're using mobile devices such as your cell phones or tablets, you probably won't get the full effect of the webinar. And your feedback is always important to us, so please do fill out the survey at the end of the webinar. And just to tell you a little bit about ACCESS, we've been around for over 30 years helping job seekers such as yourselves. We've helped over 34,000 job seekers in the past year alone. We work with over 2,200 employers. RBC, one of our greatest employers and sponsors and supporters for our programs and our clients. And they host 2 webinars every month as well. We've got 30 tailored programs, which include our sector-specific bridging programs, entrepreneurship programs, programs for women, leadership, and programs for youth as well. If you go to our website, you'll find out about all of our programs that we host. We've got 6 locations in the GTA. One of our locations, which is in Markham, but it's a partner site with RBC. It's a newcomer center, so that's something that you can also check out. And I'm sure Vivian will talk about that as well. And we also have our 7th newest location opening up in Newmarket. So if you know anyone or if you're in that area, stay tuned. We will be bringing a new location over there as well. We've got 3 national programs and online services such as the webinars we bring to you. And we also do open houses and virtual job fairs as well online. And if you want to know when all this is going on, follow us on our social media and I'll tell you how to towards the end. And now I'm going to leave it to our lovely RBC team. So take it away, Vivian, please.
Okay, thank you, Sonia. Hello, everyone. Very happy to be back today. And I have a lovely list of panelists joining me today and share their experience and the insights of how they were able to find not only a job, but also the job in their professional area. In RBC, I think that's a much needed topic for newcomer talent group. So I'm going to start by introducing a little bit about RBC, because if you're interested in a job with RBC, it's better you know a little bit about the company, and that's very highly suggested when you're preparing your job interview or anything. You need to know a little bit about the company. So Sonia, if you can pass this slide to the next slide. Okay, so a little bit about me. I think I'm a very frequent guest with the ACCESS webinar series. Some of you might have known me from the past webinars. I'm an immigrant myself. I came to Canada, oh wow, so it's 17 years ago. So when I first came, it wasn't easy either, and I do understand the challenges both from the language perspective and the culture and the lack of network perspective. That's maybe one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about hosting these webinars and inviting guests to share their experiences with our newcomer job seekers so that we can provide the support the newcomers needed, not only help our RBC's client, but anybody who is coming to Canada, because we're very committed to help all the newcomer, thrive in Canada. So Sonia, if you can move on to the next slide. Just a little bit about RBC. You see, we have a lot of awards on the screen, and that is actually the hard work of our 80,000 employees. Everybody's contribution counts. We're Canada's best diversity employer, Canada's top 100 employer. Last year, we're LinkedIn actually, we're named LinkedIn's top company. We are actually ranked #1 on LinkedIn for company, the best company to work. We were also, nominated by the government of Canada for our effort to support newcomer job seekers. So very proud to work in this great company. And I hope some of you will be joining us in the near future. As you can see, we actually, our main operation is in Canada, but we do operate in 37 countries in Asia, in Europe, in Australia, New Zealand, and we have offices. So Sonia, let's go to the next slide, please. I want to touch a little bit on our commitment to diversity and inclusion, especially our newcomer inclusion practices. As you know, as a bank, we definitely provide services to different communities. But what you might not know is that we serve our clients in over 200 languages. Actually, we hire from the community to serve the community. A lot of our new hires are from our newcomers, just like yourself, who can speak another language and provide the services to our clients. RBC actually has over 60% of our workforce that are women. And so our recent efforts in the last 10, 15 years have been trying to really grow female employees into senior leadership roles. So we're very, very proud that 45% of our executives are women. And in terms of visible minority, that covers the majority of our newcomer group. Visible minority is a very HR term, so by which we mean either you're non-white by color, non-Caucasian by race, and you're not indigenous. So a lot of our newcomer population fall under that. 35% of our workforce are visible minority, but that's our Canadian workforce availability is only 25%, so way above that. In areas like Toronto, we have around 40% of our workforce that are visible minority. So we really put a lot of effort in building our newcomer inclusion practices. Once you join, in order to make our employees feel at home and feel that sense of belonging, you are invited to join different employee resource groups for women, for visible minority, for newcomers, for LGBT groups, and people with visible or invisible disabilities. You can also support our indigenous people's different initiatives. So very proud, and the company support different diversity and inclusion initiatives here. So if we could move to the next. Okay, so this is the main topic of the day. I'm super excited to have our three panelists So just now they were able to just very briefly introduce their name and what's their role. Maybe the next role round, I'd like to ask our panelists to introduce a little bit about which country they were from, what was their background, and how long did they take them to find a job in RBC. Let's start from the person on the left, Ed Funky. How can you give a little bit more information about yourself?
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here to share my story. My name is Funke, as Vivian rightly mentioned. I relocated to Canada in 2018. Prior to relocating to Canada, I was working in the financial service industry, about 10 years experience in the financial service industry, with specializations in internal control, internal audit, and compliance. And then currently I work in RBC as a data controls analyst with the US Data Office. It's been a very good one for me. I feel very privileged and I'm happy to be here.
So how long did it take you to search the job in your field before you find the job in RBC?
Yeah, it took me about a year, close to a year. For me, I came into Canada with my family. Pregnant when I came. I had a lot of cultural issues, challenges that I was facing, try to settle down, get to know figure out what to do, how to get things done, and all of the rest. And so it was very challenging, but eventually I made it. I got into RBC.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to pause there, and I'm going to come back to you to ask more about the challenges you're facing, and then how you were able to overcome and successfully land a job.
Okay.
How about Duffy? Tell us a little bit about your background before you come to Canada, and how long did it take you to find a job?
Okay, thanks, Vivian. Hi, everyone, again. So my background is in corporate finance advisory. I spent about 9 years working mainly in the investment banking sector back in Nigeria, handling transactions for a lot of international firms as well, looking to raise capital in international markets. So in summary, my experience is in corporate finance advisory with specialization in M&A advisory and then also capital markets. So I have a very good understanding of the investment space. I also, and I bring this up because one of the challenges I faced coming to Canada was being able to streamline my experience. I also have had experience, in asset management and other areas of the investment and consulting industries. I moved to Canada effectively, I would say, January of last year. But I should say that prior to that, so in October of 2018, I actually attended the ACCESS employment program. So I spent about 5 weeks from 2018 October to December. And it was at that point I decided I was going to come to Canada to be with my family who had been here for about 2 years prior. So I essentially moved to Canada in January of 2019 to basically start my job search. It took me about, I would say, 6 months, 6 to 7 months, starting in January. And I started working in RBC in July of 2019. So about 6 to 7 months, the entire process.
So we really look forward to hearing your story, Duffy. And so you were able to know and get to know about ACCESS and their program prior to you landing in Canada?
Yes, I was. Like I said, my family had been here, my wife and kids. So my wife actually attended the ACCESS program as well, earlier in 2018. And that helped her basically to understand the Canadian job market, network, and all of that. And she was able to find a job. And I guess that experience also gave me some confidence to say, okay, let me leave what I was doing back home to try as well. After I attended the ACCESS program, it changed my perspective. You know, I was equipped to basically, I felt more equipped, I would say, to basically come to Canada and take the big leap to move, because I was actually, before I moved in January, I was traveling back and forth for 3 years. It was very challenging, but I decided to come after I attended the ACCESS Employment Program, yes.
Okay, so that's good to hear. I'm sure that Sonia and your colleagues are very happy to hear that ACCESS employment has made such an impact in a lot of immigrants' lives. So I have a lovely Divya sitting right beside me. So maybe you can introduce a little bit more about yourself.
Sure, and hi everyone. My name is Divya, and it's a proud moment for me to join this as a panel, member. Last year at this time, I was one of you, and I was listening to Vivian, and now I'm with Vivian. And yes, definitely, thank you, Vivian. Thank you, RBC, and also thank you to ACCESS Employment as well. I also went through ACCESS Employment programs. So tell me about my background. I'm from India, but although, I was in the UAE, in Dubai, working for an international bank for about 11 years. And my background was wealth management compliance. I was into business risk and control management, into wealth management. And I moved around October 2018. As well, I had challenges as I moved with my family, and it took me almost a year to land a job, and it's my first job. And yes, it has been a struggle, but yes, eventually I made it, and I'm very, very happy about it.
Oh, so happy for you too,
yes.
And so happy to have you here. I think then we're going to touch a little bit on the more deeper the challenges you're facing, right? Because as immigrants, we all know coming to a new country, not only from how our panelists have spoken so far, I think there's not a lot of language barriers, but there might be some communication barriers. There might be some culture shocks, right? Coming to this country, especially I noticed all of you guys are from a country that's very warm, right? It's very, going through the 6 months of snow might be a very challenging as well. So, and on top of that, to find a job that's in your area of expertise, especially I know that because I've been supporting immigrants for the last few years, it's especially challenging in the finance field because it's so competitive, and there are a lot of new grads, the talented in Canada. That are in the job market competing with our newcomers. So it's really hard, but I'm extremely happy to hear that all of you are able to land job quite, I would say, reasonably soon after you landing in Canada. Definitely want to hear, what made you, what allowed you to be successful in landing the job. Maybe start with, the challenges or even some fun stories or culture shocks, if you are willing to share. And then what approach you took that really allowed you to be successful. Should I start? We start with Funky.
All right.
Yeah. And you know what impressed me with your story? You're a mom of 3, right? And when you give birth to another baby, and then you had to take care of the newborn, and at the same time looking for the job. Wow. You're a superwoman.
My story, challenging, interesting. I came into Canada, as I said earlier, late 2018. Came in with my family of 4. I was pregnant, and as a new immigrant, coming from a tropical aspect of the world, as Vivian mentioned, major challenge that I faced, because I came in at the peak of winter, was the weather. I was struggling with the weather. I was
Well,
pregnant. You can imagine the combination of both. And then I had kids to like with family, my husband, to like settle down, figure out who to see, what to do, how to go about things. That's the family aspect. Secondly is the cultural aspect. You're like, how do you communicate? Fine, we speak in English in Nigeria, but you want to understand the Canadian culture. You want to understand how things are being done here. For example, interview tips, resume format, templates, how you need to go about all of those things. And then thirdly, I want to touch of this general saying, as regards the lack of work experience. There's this natural fear that you have that how is it going to be, you do not have a work experience, and then people say you need to have a work experience first to get into your role that you actually want to. So you sometimes find people end up doing one or two things just to like get their foot on the door and then eventually come in. So I had that fear that was also nurturing. When my baby grew up and then it was time for job search, prior to landing, I've done a kind of a bit of research, because the Canadian journey was the journey that my family was planning for 2-3 years before we eventually came. So before I came in, some of the things that helped me, at least it reduced the fear a bit, it reduced the pressure a bit, was the fact that before I came in, I've already enrolled for some job search strategy courses that were being organized by some immigrant association. I actually came to Halifax, Canada. So there's an organization in there, ACCES, that have courses for just to like prepare you for the culture shock when you come in. So I wrote for some of those courses, so it reduced the pressure that I had, though we still have the reality setting. That's when you come in and see how things, but it was like it was like a softener, like it was like a soft landing for me. And then aside that, for my certifications, I did some research as regards how do I convert some of them, what other certifications do I need. I did a kind of research into the Canadian job market to see how I can leverage on my past experience from my home country when I got in here. So I did a certification also before coming in. And then after landing, I attended a couple of access employment webinars, visited the immigrant services organizations. During this process, I was able to gather knowledge as regards how to prepare my resume, in the interview tips, and all of the rest. I was doing all of this. I was doing all of this preparation as I was home nursing my baby, and then trying to psychologically get myself ready for the job. And in addition to this, to also help my interactions, I attended a lot of networking events. And then what this did to me psychologically was to help me easily interact with Canadians. I understand the way they speak. I understand the way I respond. There are times that from my home country, there are some responses that you say that doesn't really matter, but when you get in here, there are some that you say that, oh, this is how things are being done there. So I learned a lot of this during this process. I also got into volunteering my children's schools. If there were events that they wanted parents to volunteer, I also partook in some of this volunteering. And so and then I have appointment with professionals like my doctors. So I've always used this kind of communications, this type of event or situation to build my interaction skills communication skills, and it helped me a lot because over time I grew that confidence and the fear of I want to speak to somebody, because coming to a new place, coming to a new country, there's this fear of how am I speaking well? Am I communicating well? So this eradicated this fear for me, and it was very, very useful.
Thank you. I think you definitely trying to equip yourself here. So something, setting enough key factors why you were able to land a job and so soon. So yeah, so that's a move to Duffy. I know a little bit about your story, but definitely look forward to you sharing your job searching journey and the challenges you're facing, because the finance, you know, there's so many people who are in the same field, and many talented newcomers and try to get into finance field. So definitely look forward to your sharing.
Thanks, Vivian. You're correct. You know, one of the biggest, I wasn't a shock, but one of the biggest realizations that I had coming to Canada was that the level of competition is very high in finance, obviously because Canada is pulling the best and the brightest from everywhere in the world. So whereas you think, oh, you have a master's degree, you're writing your CFA exams, every day there are hundreds and hundreds of charter holders and MBAs and experienced finance people landing in this country looking for the same roles. So I think that one of the biggest challenges I had coming to Canada, and it took a while for me to make the decision to come here, was knowing that I had to leave everything I had achieved back home in finance and basically come to a new market and learn all over again. And it did a lot for, I think one of the biggest challenges in summary was the self-confidence, the assurance, the motivation, knowing that you are able to compete. You know, despite the barriers, you may not speak like everyone else. You may not look like everyone else, even though Canada is a very diverse country. Your experiences are from a completely different market. And how do you make that relatable? I think that was one of the biggest challenges I had. Related to that, I think the other thing, and I mentioned earlier that I have a very broad experience. The second realization I had coming to Canada is that it's a very specialized, the job market is very specialized. Whereas where I spent most of my career were more generalist, so you find one person having, you know, experiences across multiple sectors or multiple products or multiple areas, whereas in Canada you find more specialization. As for someone like me who had experience in consulting, in advisory, some investment banking, some private investing, it was difficult to sort of streamline my focus. And so I would apply in the earlier stages, I would apply for any job thinking that, oh, because I've done a bit of asset management or I've done a bit of investment advisory, I'm qualified to apply for that role. It took, my engagement with ACCESS and also the benefit of a mentor to help me to realize that it is possible to streamline your career goals to say 2-3 top things. Even if you feel like you can do a lot of things, it is better to narrow your focus on 2-3 things that you believe you are very good at and you can sell yourself on. So that was another challenge. So access employment, and I had the privilege of having a mentor through another RBC program who sort of guided me to say, look, you know what, pick 3 things, focus on those 3 things, network in those areas, meet people, ask questions, do your research, let it be limited as opposed to you applying for everything simply because you think you can do it. Focus really helped. And I would say the final thing was, in my previous roles, I always did a lot of networking, obviously working in investment banking at a pretty senior level. I'm not shy about speaking to to people or engaging or communicating or networking, as the case may be, but I had never had to network for job search. And I think that's one of the things a lot of newcomers will find, that you may be good at networking for acquiring clients or generating new business, but how do you network to look for a job? It's a very, very different mindset, right? Because essentially you're putting yourself out there to people to help you. You are trying to convince them that they should listen to you, and there's a whole set of skills that organizations like ACCESS Employment and RBC's mentorship program help you to develop. Being able to develop an elevator pitch, for example, in 1 minute or in 90 seconds, can you describe yourself, without, summarize your experience to the right person at the right time? Are you able to emphasize your soft skills? You may not have actual Canadian experience, but are you able to demonstrate that the experience you have is relatable? So those things happen in the process of networking. And I think that I've talked about the challenges. One of the biggest, opportunities I found in Canada to help me is that there are lots of people out there who are willing to help, who are ready, looking to pay it forward, who are immigrants like yourselves. Even if they are not immigrants, their parents were immigrants or their parents' parents were immigrants. So there's a lot of empathy and willingness to help new immigrants if you are able to put yourself out there, ask the right questions, because you also don't want to waste people's time, right? But one thing I learned not to do is not to be shy about asking for help, and then also knowing how to ask for help. So I met Vivian even before I got a job in RBC through an event. Before I met Vivian, I had met one of her colleagues at another event, and the chain just kept going and going. And before I finally found a job in RBC, I was already feeling like an RBCer, right? Because I was talking to so many RBC people at the same time that when I eventually this was my first job application. So the role I have was my first job application to RBC, and it was my first interview, and I got it on my first attempt, right? It is because I spent a lot of time talking to RBC people and understanding and asking for help, and it doesn't work the first time, they may not be available, you just keep putting yourself out there and use every connection that you have to make more connections or to get more information. So in summary, that's those are the challenges, and I think that's how I was able to overcome some of them.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know how many people are there listening to you, Daffy, but what you just shared is just pure gold. I think there are so many good points that people can take away, especially the networking piece. And really, as newcomers, in a lot of cultures, networking is not, what we do at home, right? But coming to Canada, and it is, 70% of the jobs are gained through, one or a different format of networking. So you do need to put yourself out there and really be humble and ask for help. But, it's asking people for help does not necessarily mean make you feel embarrassed or something, because there's always an opportunity for you to pay it forward in the future to help some other newcomers, like what our panelists are doing today, sharing their experiences. So I'm going to pass on to Divya to share her experience. I know she has a lot of good insights to share.
Sure, Vivian, thank you. My challenges were mainly weather and coming from a hotter place, although Dubai had winter too, but not like Canada, right? And also no Canadian experience, which some of the recruiters, they have asked these, related questions in the interviews to me. And also no domestic help, Here it's like you got to be independent.
Right,
And yes, obviously, so all these things, and also I was not at all active in LinkedIn. And as similar to what Daffy said, I was not shy to talk to people, but I was at the same time, I never knew like what to put out there as while networking, connecting with people, what to ask and how do I ask. So such a challenge which I faced. So what I did was when before I come here, obviously I had a fair knowledge on how it's going to be, and I didn't have much of cultural shock because coming from Dubai, where it was multicultural, and I felt it's the same here as well. I never faced that kind of a challenge. But however, like I went through, newcomer centers, bridging programs of about 8 weeks, understanding how the Canadian market, works, what is the working culture, and how to write a resume and how to present myself at the interviews because I was at the current role for 7 years in the previous bank. So I never attended interviews in about 7 years. So I wanted to, it was like everything was so fresh to me. I wanted to, practice more and more. So all these were like, kind of challenges to me. And yes, definitely, job fair, which I attended at RBC, I met Vivian at there first time, and that became base for me because then after then I started to network a lot with RBC and Access Employment as well, and I was part of track mentorship program where I, there was a mentor who was helping me in terms of like how do I present myself because I was failed at many interviews until the last round I went and at the last round I could not get successful. So then I thought, I should work on that more, and that's how I took a mentorship program.
So what did you do differently that in the interview that allowed you to be successful?
So I did not do much of a difference. It was like, the way I used to answer was a little bit different once my mentor, helped me with like, answer this way or, you can be more presentable this way if you say this, kind of questions. And also I worked on personal branding. And tell me about yourself, like that's the key, right? Because you should not be like just reading out the resume out there. Just point out your skills and what you can give the best to your employers and in terms of what they are looking for. So all these things have changed, and when you go to many interviews and you learn by yourself, you know that okay, what mistakes have you done, and then you learn by yourself. So everything in overall has helped me a lot, and that's where I am today.
So obviously when
Yeah.
you got your first interview and there was a very high expectation of getting the job, right?
Yes.
And it's so important as a newcomer. When you didn't get a job, how did you adjust your, mentality to keep positive and to keep looking?
Yes, definitely. It, obviously I felt too bad. I felt that there should be something that I should develop, and obviously I asked for feedback. But however, it wasn't that constructive feedback which I received because they just told me that they took somebody more experienced than me, so that didn't really help me. But I had written it down, whatever I had to say, so I went through it. I, worked onto it. I researched on some of the answers that I have, presented. So yes, so that way and also, somewhere, we all knew that it doesn't, come at the first time, right? Success doesn't come at the first time. At times, you really have to struggle and you really have to work hard to get it. So I was mentally prepared from the beginning that it is not going to be easy for me. So yes, so most of the time we have to be mentally prepared because we cannot just have, okay, I got the interview, I'll be selected, you know, because there will be many competitions as well. So all, you know, you got to be the best and you have to work hard for that. So yeah, that way, you know, I kept myself motivated. It was like every day was a new day for me, and I just forgot about the past, and I just started working on, you know, the next day. So yes.
That's very good.
Yeah.
The positive thinking, right?
Yes.
Because you know, if you get in the interview, you have very, very high expectation. I remember when I was a newcomer, my first interview, that was like, this is it, I'm going to get it. But if you don't get it, that's just, you know, at least you should come to the realization that your skills are acknowledged. I mean, when you're invited to an interview, that means that you are at par. Because a lot of times, the newcomer coming to Canada, we don't know where we stand. Right, even though we had some grammars very, like a lot of work experience, like Duffy and everybody on the panel today, in our home country, we don't know where we stand in the Canadian job market. But the fact that you are invited to the interview, that tells a lot, because you're selected from around maybe 500 other people, and you're selected as an interviewee. So that means that your qualification meets the standard. So what you need to work on maybe is the interview skills, a more targeted approach, a better preparation. So that's something that everybody needs to work on. But do not get frustrated if you don't get it the first time. Usually our statistics show if you get invited to 5 interviews, so one of them you're going to be successful. So I'm conscious of the time. I'm going to maybe pass it back to Sonia and answer some questions with our panelists. Sonia, can you take over?
Yes, thank you for that. Was great, and you guys had great information to share. I'm sure that all the insight will help everyone with their job search as well. I'm going to leave this slide up so that when we're asking questions, so if you can all type your questions into the Q&A tab, we will be able to start taking them in. So the first question I have is from Habib. He says, if you're currently working, I'm just going to rephrase it a little bit. So if you're currently working somewhere which is not really in your field, how can you still get a call from RBC for a job?
So I'm going to take that on because, you know, it really depends on whether you had experience from your, say, your home country that the job requires, right? It's very, very important to tailor your resume based on the job requirements. Say you have very good work experience in your home country, and now you're working in a, say, survival job. So when you apply for a job in RBC that's, you know, in your field, minimize that survival job, you know, do not lie, still listed, you know, when you're invited to interview, you can present it, I'm using this job, survival job, to improve my, say, Canadian, to learn more about Canadian culture, improve my communication skills, but really highlight the experience in your past that's needed for the job. Every resume, every time we apply for a job, you need to really customize your resume, highlight and bold those words who are required in the job posting. So that's what gets you into the attention of the recruiters.
Thank you, Vivian. Next question here is it advisable to take a lower level role than your past experience to get into the field of work that you want to?
So that's really a personal choice, right? I met people who have, you know, MBA or a lot of years of experience. and they don't mind starting from entry level, like a client facing role, but they also grow very fast after they take that role, right? And there are also people who want to wait a little bit because their skill sets are at a higher level, and they want to wait, and you just need to understand the trade-offs, right? If you want to wait, it might be a little bit more challenging. You might need to wait a little bit longer. So if you have a lot of savings and which can support you, and you have family that supports you for that, it's really a personal choice. So my personal choice when I graduated from, I came to Canada and I studied the HR program. I didn't take a survival job from the HR field. I volunteered to get that experience in the professional field. But if that is not something you feel that's ideal, we interview so many people, newcomers, for our entry level, say, branch jobs, and they all have very good career opportunities after they join RBC.
Thank you. Next question here is, what's the best way to apply for positions at RBC? Do you use the career website or do you use LinkedIn?
Oh, it's definitely a career website. A lot of the LinkedIn postings are from our career site. So definitely go to our career site frequently and check the postings.
All right. And in your experience, how open are people to meet for coffee chats or meetups if you approach them on LinkedIn?
So I'm going to ask, can any of the panelists answer the question? I'm sure after I posted this on LinkedIn, you guys received a lot of coffee chat and connect requests, right?
Okay, I'll take up this on, Vivian. Yes, I have received a few of the connections, and I'm completely okay with it. If anyone wants my help, I can be of help. I'm not sure about meeting personally due to the job requirements, right? The work requirements, but definitely on phone or through LinkedIn messages. I'm okay, and I'm happy to help whoever wants my help. And my LinkedIn name is Divyashri Bhatt. And yes, actually, just to throw some more light on it quickly, when I was, requesting coffee chats with different people, I have not had a good experience. But although, I have had a fair experience with people helping me out through, messages because of, various obvious reasons that some of, people may not literally have time to meet up because of their own, personal requirements as well. So my experience was only through messages or phone. They have actually helped me, within RBC, outside RBC. So yes, that's my experience.
Thank you.
If I could add something on LinkedIn, Vivian, I think what I would say is you have nothing to lose by asking people. Not everyone is going to respond, and that was also my experience. I did not get a response from everyone, but before you even go out to ask, right, when you send a LinkedIn request, the first thing the receiver looks at is your profile. So does your profile attract them? What are you looking for? Why are you reaching out, right? Prior to coming to Canada, I was accustomed to just sending out LinkedIn requests without putting a personal note. Right. But when I came to Canada, I learned that if you're reaching out to people on LinkedIn, it is good to put a personal note and state exactly what your purpose is, right? Or I saw your profile, I'm researching this area, I would like to learn more from you. Do you have time for a chat? So in my experience, some people responded, some people did not. Some people who responded the first time did not respond again, maybe because they got busy and other things. But LinkedIn is actually a very powerful tool, and I will give you some of my personal experience. So while I was preparing for the interview for this job, I researched similar roles in other banks. And I found a number of people. And then I sent requests to several people to say, oh, I'm researching this specific role. Do you have time to chat? I sent it to about 10 people. Only one responded. He has the exact same title in another bank. And he responded, I asked for a coffee chat. He says he couldn't meet. It was a very busy period. I said, okay, can we talk on the phone? He said he would rather I send my questions to him and he will respond to them. And that is exactly what happened. So because I was preparing for the job, I knew what I wanted to find out about the role. And I sent him a list of 5 questions about this role. What exactly do you do as a manager of EDS in your bank? And he answered my questions very, very specifically, very clearly. And don't tell my team, but some of the answers he gave me, I actually used them in the interview because I had learned from somebody else. So LinkedIn is actually very powerful. I have never spoken to this person, but here's someone who I've never spoken to till today, willing to offer me help, which was actually valuable to me. So you have nothing to lose by asking. Not everyone will respond, but keep pushing.
Yeah, one more thing I want to add is, so LinkedIn is almost like people volunteer their time to answer our questions, right? So do not get frustrated if you say send 1 or 2 requests and don't get a response. And just like Duffy mentioned, if you send 10 requests and 1 person gets back to you, that is your huge success. And be genuine and be personal when you send the message, right? A lot of times I just receive LinkedIn requests without any message, and I don't know that person. There's no way I'm going to accept that. Put yourself on the other side, right? If you're the person that received those requests, what kind of requests you would answer? So think about that way, and we're all human, and have that human touch will help you make more connection. Always be grateful after you received help from people. Say thank you and keep connected. Whether you need that person or not, do not make people feel that they are used, right? So that's just some very general guidelines for LinkedIn.
Thank you. Another question here is, if you have lots of different types of experience on your resume, do you simply delete the ones that are not relevant?
I can touch on, so I definitely wouldn't recommend you delete that, because that might lead to the risk of people thinking you're lying or you omit some experience on purpose. You can minimize the experience. For example, if you have something on your resume that's really relevant to what the job is looking for, you can put more description and provide more details. But if this job has very little connection with the job that you're looking for, you can just put a one-liner or showcase some of the job responsibilities or your achievement, demonstrate your leadership skills through that experience, right? Versus the technical skills. So you can have a standard resume, but always customize based on each job you're looking for. You can minimize or you can maximize the experience.
Thank you. Next question is, if you ever get rejected from an interview at RBC, would you ever get invited for another interview, another job that you've applied for?
Okay, I'll take this question. Yes, definitely, because this is my 3rd interview and which got successful. Actually, I have received 2 phone interviews in a span of 1 week. And when I received, the phone interview, I have told the HR that I also have another phone interview as well. And she was very impressed being transparent. And also she had put up some good words about me to another HR person from RBC. So it's good to be transparent. And yes, definitely you would, if they think that you are capable for this job. And as Vivian mentioned, that if they think that your resume is, matching the job skills that they have posted, you will get another interview, although you have been rejected during, first interview or the second interview. So yes, that way, RBC, I'm very thankful that, RBC has a wider career site where, they go through each and every resume in order to, shortlist the candidates.
Thank you. Next question is for all the panelists, I guess. What networking events did you go to get your foot into the door? How can people network and get out there to be able to work in the banking industry?
Yeah, let me take that. Networking, one important way you could do that, one key one, it's the LinkedIn. And then also try attend networking events. There are a lot of them going on out there. As you get out and you try to talk to people, as my colleagues have said earlier, a lot of people are ready to help. It's just about reaching out to them, talking to them, telling them what you want, your prior experience, marketing yourself very well. It's just about telling people that this is what you want to do, convince them, and then the opportunities are there. I can't stress that enough. In Canada, lots of opportunities out there. What we should see is we should see opportunities and not challenges. And then if we have that psychology, I think we'll get there. We'll get there. It might take time. We keep pushing. We'll definitely get there.
Thank you, Funke. Next question is, how important is it to take a course in your field to get a job in Canada, especially if it's in the HR field?
For certain jobs, right, we need the designation. So you cannot work on the position, working in that job unless you get a designation. So for those jobs, definitely it's very, very important. For HR, I think it depends. I did get my my education here, but if you have tons of experience in your home country, HR, I think, is still important because the Canadian employment law kind of determines a lot of the HR practices here. So it's still important to get the education, but you don't have to wait until you finish the education to look for a job. You can look for a job while you're going to school, right? But it's very, very important. I would say a lot of our HR practice is built on the Canadian employment law, like recruitment, like employment diversity. So it's very, very important to understand that aspect. But you can still look for a job and get hired before you finish school and get your designation.
Thank you. And how do you feel about approaching people on LinkedIn that work at RBC if you want to be referred at a job at RBC? So there are people on your LinkedIn, you don't know them personally. Is it fair to ask them to refer them to a job at RBC?
I wouldn't say so, because the way how referral works is I know someone and I have a basic understanding of that person's skill set, and that's how I would be comfortable refer that person to. If you don't know that person, I don't think it's a fair ask, and you put that difficult question to the referral person. So it's better that person knows a little bit about you, your background, what you can do, and then it's more fair to ask for the referral.
Thank you. So this question is probably for the other panelists. How would you answer the question, describe yourself at an interview?
I can attempt an answer. So I think the question says, how would you describe yourself in 1 to 2 minutes? So I would say to whoever asked the question and everyone else, go online and research elevator pitch. So preparing an elevator pitch, and also research the STAR method, STAR. It's a way to basically describe your experience by talking about the situation, how you actually handle that situation and what results you achieved. Okay, so it's something that I also had to learn. So I can't tell you how to do it on this call, but I can tell you what resources are available. So go and learn about preparing an elevator pitch. And you have to practice. So I had to practice. I practiced so much that if you wake me up from sleep now to say, describe yourself in 90 seconds, I will tell you exactly, I will summarize my experience for you. I couldn't do that a year ago, so it takes practice.
Just to add to Dafe as well, that even me, I had to literally work in front of the mirror on to tell me about yourself, that to to cover everything what I am for example, my skills, my strengths, my achievements, which I have done, and also include compliance related experience. So all in one was definitely a challenging for me, but yes, I have done it. It really takes out so much of hard work. And also just another tip as well, that use company languages, for example, the banks or wherever you apply for and you get an interview, just to include their values and behaviors, and so how you can relate your experience so that you can be adhering to their values and behaviors. That really helped me because I have used that in RBC interviews, go through their values and behaviors and the products, so that you can use them in your interview, or a little bit of in your describe yourself the first 2 minutes.
Thank you. I know we've gone over time. I'll do one more last question that we're getting a lot of. How do you explain a gap on your resume? Let's say that you took some time off to take care of your kids. How do you explain that?
I think it's good to be honest. So we, for a company with very good diversity and inclusion practice, we have, like I mentioned, we say 60% of our workforce are females, and a lot of them take time off during a certain time of their career to take care of their family, having babies, and so just to make sure that when you're in the interview, be honest, you want to have some work-life balance. That's why you made a decision. Now you're ready to come back and highlight the experience that you have for the job. And what maybe sometimes in the interview question, you can also incorporate what you have learned in life when you're taking time off, right? And how you're going to apply to the job challenges. So it's all about the positive attitude, and then be upfront and be honest and present yourself as a whole person. That's very important.
Thank you so much, Vivian, and thank you everyone else for joining today. Would you like to say anything before I move forward?
Yes, thank you, RBC, thank you, ACCESS Employment, and thank you, Vivian, for this opportunity. And it's a great honor to share my story. I can completely understand the people out there because I was in your situation once, almost for a year. And yes, do not get frustrated or, feel bad about it. It's just a time that will pass through, and, good luck to everyone. And I'm surely, everyone will do their best and land on to their dream job. And all the best to everyone.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining. I would want to say again that let's see opportunities and not challenges. Let's be positive. It's going to be fine. Keep working hard. Never give up. Don't be disappointed, and then you definitely get there. Thank you.
So from me, thanks to RBC and ACCESS for this opportunity to share my story. To the panelists, I would echo what Funke has said, which is that there are actually lots of opportunities in Canada. You just need to be prepared. You know, and I cannot overemphasize the importance of preparation and networking, and reaching out to ask for help. That's how I got here, by asking for help and letting people know, oh, this is what I'm trying to do. How can you help me? What information do I need? What do I need to learn? And there are lots of organizations like RBC that, you know, and RBC is a leader in this regard, that actually help new immigrants like yourself. So take advantage of those, and good luck to everyone.
All right, thank you so much. Oh, go ahead, Vivian, sorry.
I just want to take this opportunity to thank all my panelists, and they jump in for the opportunity the minute I asked them, and to share and pay it forward to the other newcomer job seekers. One final encouragement I have for the participants is, through my learning in India last December, I took my yoga teacher training, and one of the principles is called tapas. Tapas means discipline and a fire. So basically, consider this experience and the challenge as the fire you need to go through, and to allow you to see how strong you are, right? And a lot of blessings are in disguise of the challenges you're facing. It really allows you to become a new person through all the challenges, and really start a new life, and a very bright future is waiting for you. You have to believe in that, and we wish everybody best of luck in your job searching. And Sonia, just one last point. I noticed there are a lot of questions not answered. Maybe we can schedule another Q&A session just to answer some of the frequently asked questions. If you could send me the questions, maybe we can schedule something in the future.
For sure. Thank you, Vivian, and thank you everyone for participating. And I'm sorry we weren't able to take everyone's questions today, but like Vivian said, you can send them in, and we can arrange another Q&A session soon. So thank you everyone again for joining. If you have any questions about, you know, resume help, interview tips, networking, go to our website, click on ACCES, and there's tons of different resources online that you can check out. We've got past webinars, we've got past RBC webinars as well. So check that out so we can help you with your job search. And our next webinar coming up is this Wednesday, February 12th. It's a CPA info session. So if you're interested in pursuing your CPA, join us this week. And if you are approved to come to Canada within the next few months, you may be eligible for the Canadian Employment Connections programs. So if you are under any of these categories, sectors, you can apply. You can email cec@accessemployment.ca, access with one S, and see if you are eligible for the program or not. And on Instagram, we are very active on our social media. So if you want to know what's happening at our office or online, you will always see it on our social media. So follow us on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And again, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today live. And thank you to our panelists. And Vivian, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.